once again, this is a never-ending process of discovery. We're so excited about some of the things that we've been doing because a few people had come to our workshops that were in a position of leadership and research, and they witnessed people on the stage talking about stage 4 cancer going away, and they saw their pre and post measurements and their metastatic changes out of their structure, which is amazing. And so we assembled some more researchers on a team, and we started working with the universities. And last February, we were doing some measurements. We were drawing blood before and after 7-day event, and we had control group, people that were not in the event, that were staying at the hotel, that agreed to be part of the study. We had novice meditators, beginning meditators that had just come to the work, just learned how to do it, and then we had people that had been doing meditation for more than 6 months, and for the most part, at least 5 to 7 times a week. So we called those advanced or experienced meditators, and we measured their brains before and after. We measured their brains at many meditations during real-time meditations. We wanted to see the changes weren't just in their mind, but they were actually in their brain. We had them wearing HRV monitors to monitor their heart rate variability, along with along with all these blood measurements. And right away after the event was over, I got a very quick call from the senior research analyst there, the senior vice chair at the department there for cellular biology, and he said, "There's some really compelling things going on right away." And we were measuring over 1,000 metabolic markers on if a cell is in a state of repair and growth, or a cell is in a state of emergency or breakdown. And so we had a few people that had come that were looked very sick on their cellular function at the beginning of the event. But 1 week later, there was a dramatic drop, like straight down, that you just never see. It was that significant. And so there were a few like that, but one in particular that was very, very, very significant. And turns out that this person also had a very profound mystical experience that he wrote about. And I didn't know that he was that test subject. I had read the testimonial, and it was outstanding. I knew the guy had a really transcendental experience. And so it turned out to be him, and his heart rate variability measurements showed the amplitudes were 3 times as high as normal. So he wasn't feeling just a little love. No. He was feeling a tremendous amount of love. And I didn't know this, but when in his subjective story that he sent in, it was so big it scared him. I mean, like, you have to relax into it. It's not something you just let go into. It was that big for him. Yeah. So, and then he had some really substantial brain changes. And so we decided to take a very close look at him. And then we started thinking about looking at the National Institutes of Health in the United States was deciding to put a lot of money towards the funding for COVID, but they wanted to see if there were any mind-body factors that could be isolated. So we saw the grant advertisement, and we thought we would write a grant to see if we could find, with the induction of any harvestable factors from the result of meditation, contemplative practices, or self-regulation, for the treatment and management and prevention of COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. So we started writing this grant, and then the very last day of the grant, we thought, my goodness, why don't we take a pseudovirus that's exact same shape as the SARS-CoV virus, put a radioactive marker in it, and let's see if that virus behaves just like the SARS virus. Let's see what happens when we look at advanced meditators' blood. And so what we saw was if the plasma got infected, the radioactive dye would turn the microscopic field bright red. And so as you would expect, you'd see a lot of red stain in the microscopic field of most people. But at the end of the week long, there was very, very hardly any red in the microscopic field, which meant that there was a viral resistance to the SARS virus. the pseudovirus, and that on some level the plasma was not taking the viral load. So we started studying the electron microscopes, and we saw that control groups had the virus in the cell. The novice meditators had some virus outside the cell, some inside the cell. But the experienced meditators, you could see the virus outside the cell. It just wouldn't let the SARS in. So but when we heated it, what happened was the plasma got infected. So now we know it's a protein, because proteins break down with temperature. So now we're looking at all the different immunoglobulins and looking at all the pathways and studying all those effects. But it's a super exciting time, because there's so much evidence to show that when you self-regulate, you're more resistant to your environment. We just took the blood from experienced meditators and subject them to aggressive cancer cells, and we saw that the mitochondrial activity in the cancer cell, which is the energy of the cell, diminished by 70%. That's an incredible number. And it was basically taking the wind out of the sails of the cancer cell. It was taking away the energy that causes them to be immortal. So we're starting to find all this incredible, really incredible stuff, and there's more, and it's so incredibly exciting. I would hope that that we can demystify the process of change, that we can break it down to a point where a person doesn't have to wait for crisis or disease or diagnosis or loss or betrayal or some crisis in their life where they really decide to change. That if we can provide people the understandings of how to do that, I think, and make it more practical, I think hopefully more people will utilize it and learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration instead of pain and suffering. I would also love to see that, and this is happening right now, that the other elements of healthcare and chronic health conditions be addressed, which has to do with lifestyle and teaching people how to think differently and how to make different choices and how to behave differently and how to create new experiences and how to feel differently and with the understanding in medicine that could potentially produce a change in a person's health, albeit if they take medications, pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, exercise, doesn't matter to me. It's just that if that emotional component is never addressed, then the person never returns back to homeostasis and balance. And that's 75 to 90% of every person that walks into a healthcare facility is walking in because of that. So the responsibility for the patient then, in understanding that they have a hand in their health and in their choices, and teaching people then that meditation is something that's normal, that it's a great way to reset. It's a great way to get your body back into autonomic regulation instead of autonomic dysregulation, which is stress. And then of course that 4-minute mile, that people see that there are options to change terminal conditions and other health conditions if the person keeps showing up for themselves and keeps applying it. And certainly that I'm not trying to push positive thinking or positive psychology. I'm hopeful that it's seen as something else, but really some practical applications for people. So we don't go so quickly into what's predictable and what's normal, and that people live healthier and happier lives, and that we do learn how to get along and take care of one another and heal one another, and really hopefully in a different world.